welcome everybody, and can I just say congratulations to Eric, Alexi, Amandine for this incredible boutique sort of design show, L'Art de Vivre de la Française. I go to a lot of design fairs, have attended many over 20 years, and this format, I think, of this boutique small environment with absolute luxury. It's just a format which is really spectacular, that everybody who came last night was truly wowed. And this room is very impressive. In fact, it reminds me of a beautiful fair which used to take place in France called AD Interiors, which was became a cult status thing, and so congratulations, because that fair no longer exists, and this is a really fantastic platform. And so let me introduce everybody on stage. In fact, so the reason I'm here is because I know Régis, Mathieu, and Jean-François, Lesage, and Aparna very well. Mr. Féau, we just met for the first time last night, but I know his work incredibly well. Let me just, so Régis Mathieu is the founder of, oh no, not the founder, the head of Mathieu Lustrerie, a chandelier company, which is so important, but it's essentially, they were the royal, they're the official restorers of the chandeliers at Versailles. And so in fact, their business is based on, from what I understand, going into Versailles, working with them, making sure that everything is correct, replacing things, and then you have created a business out of that, which is based on not just the restoration of chandeliers in Versailles, but in France and in India, and palaces, which is, we'll come to that later, how I know you, but also in new contemporary creations. And there's one chandelier particularly called the jellyfish chandelier, which I think is your design, which is a very special piece of design, I think created for Cartier, their Place Vendôme store, which you can tell us about later, and Jean-François Lesage, obviously, needs very little introduction. Master embroiderer, one of the most elegant men in the world. Thank you. Very quiet, living in Chennai, but with a huge cult status reputation. He's the founder of an embroidery house called Vastrakala, which is really an incredibly important operation in craftsmanship in India, in its thinking, in its sort of how it treats its artisans, and how it thinks of the future of craftsmanship, and particularly the relationship between India and France, actually, which we'll discuss later. Aparna Kaushik is one of India's most fashionable interior designers right now. I hear making some of the most beautiful homes. Somebody was telling me last night about a home that you were making, and so I hope today in the conversation, you're based here in Delhi, but I hope today you won't be discreet about this, and you'll tell us about all the wonderful homes you're creating. And Guillaume Féau, who is the head of Féau Boiseries, which are the panels that are in this room, actually. And so basically his company actually creates wooden panels, so essentially entire rooms in that very French Versailles taste. And you can buy classic, you can buy antique, and they make contemporary, and he's known as the best in the world at what he does. And very recently, I think, made available his his ateliers are now open to the public and has become sort of a very fashionable thing to do amongst a certain type of person. So that's everybody sort of introduced. But I thought how I'd begin this conversation, because basically the three people who were involved in creating this spectacular room are on stage. And so, last night there was a dinner in this room, which was just one of the most gorgeous things I've seen in a long time. I just wanted, and in many ways it looks like it was a room that could have been built for a date between Modi and Macron, you know? I don't know where the room is going, but that could be it. And I know that there was a level of detail in the thought that went into this room, because when they were looking for carpets at some point, they called me, not out of my role, my current role, but just knowing that I know where things are in India, and they wanted to know where were there some French carpets that they could have in what needed to be an all-French room. And so in fact last night we had three very important Obusan carpets, which belong to Yogesh Chowdhury, the owner of Jaipur Rugs. So I know the level of detail that went into creating this room. And so I would like to ask you all, in fact, what is the concept of this room in Bikaner House, where everybody has been before, but it's never looked more spectacular? Maybe Jean-François, could you begin by telling us what was the concept?
I think the main idea behind creating this room, which has been done with Charles Imbert in France, was to organize a sort of fantasy voyage where you find a little bit of France, a lot of France in fact, some Versailles, a little bit of Sweden, could have been in Capurtala also. And it's a sort of love story for details and quality. During the previous people who were talking, they spoke about making things human. And I think what we can perceive in this room, even if it has been done like a sort of classical fantasy, is that there is centrality. It talks to the senses. It talks to the eyes. It talks about symmetry. It talks about details and all the importance and the passion which our different professions put into an incredible involvement. In the case of we three, we are chameleons, and when we work for Versailles, we have to be sort of servants of Versailles, where when we work with contemporary designers, we have to try to embrace part of their spirit and serve the cause of beauty, detailing, knowledge, passion at the highest level possible. And that's what I think we tried to bring into this room. And at Bikaner House, we are all in love with India. And I think it was also a great energy given by willing to celebrate the relations between our different cultures at the highest level possible, which has been a great motto into bringing all that together.
And can you tell me what exactly, so for example, the pieces that you have done for this room, were they made bespoke? And some of them are on last night there was embroidery on the table, there was, what were the pieces that you made for this room?
Some of the pieces have been made bespoke. For example, the idea to play with three-dimensional embroidered gold thread motifs adapted to the size of the tables and being part of another art of life, which is good dining and appreciating good things to eat, and to try to show that in our case embroidery is not just there to fill in a gap, but to bring some, I was saying centrality, it's there. It's the importance of being able to feel, to reflect the light, and to use it also in places which are usually not thought of for this kind of utilization. And yes, for example, the motifs for the tables have been created especially for here. And then from our different archives, we've brought things which were in reference to the period time of the different chandeliers, the different wooden carved panels which are shown here, so that there would be a dialogue between the bronze, the wood, the thread of the embroidery, and put all that together as a sort of common dialogue, even if it covers, it goes from pieces which are directly inspired from the late 17th, early 18th century, up to the Art Deco, and with that flying jellyfish to the early 21st century.
It's absolutely, what you've done is absolutely gorgeous. And Guillaume, can you tell us about the panels that you've brought in? So the panels they're here, and then they're in the corners.
So we have a selection of two pair of panels made by Nicolas Ledoux, the French architect. And the two one on the left with the animals, it's called the Four Continents Rooms. It's a work he had made at the early stage of his career. He was just leaving the School of Architecture. It's kind of rough, the animals are very deep. And the one with the gilding on the right side here, or more refined, it's something he had made at the second part of his career, and he was more precise and refined. So it's a neoclassical panel. I love this period because it's very easy to mix with modern art and modern furnitures. And here you have a very nice pair of Régis panel from the Ortiz Patino collection. It was a great collector of the mid-20th century. And it's from probably a huge room from the Place Vendôme. The Place Vendôme where it's a very famous place in Paris where you have all the luxury brands. And it's very high on the ceiling rooms, almost 5 meters, and that's very, very unique because the proportion, the power of those panels could be kind of enormous. And on the right side, it's quite interesting. It's a creation made by a French designer called Thierry Lemaire, who have designed the office of Mr. Macron in the Élysée Palace. And we have made those panels for AD, Architectural Digest Fair, about 10 years ago in Paris. And it was a huge screen with 5 panels like that, plus 3 panels made of glass, very contemporary glass panel.
So what I thought about the AD interiors.
Yes, it was a very long room.
Correct, yeah. And Régis, I mean, we can't help but see what you have brought. But tell us about the very special chandeliers that we have.
For me, it's easier. I've done 2 different periods. This period is the 18th century, and as you say, we are very proud that a lot of historical monuments in France let us duplicate the chandelier with a special stamp officially, like Château de Versailles. Those chandeliers are from the Mirror Hall in Versailles. And for me, the 18th century, because I'm French, is the best century of the world. And at this time, the French craftsmanship was really the center of the world. The Louis XV, Louis XVI, or Louis XIV, for us, they are kings, but for many people, they are style. Because Château de Versailles and all that they've done at this period are really the best we can do. And I think we're following that. Today, what we do is just the best we can do. And this is very nice also because every day you try to do better and you know what you wake up in the morning to do better and to do the best. Here you have the chandelier from the Mirror Hall in Versailles. Opposite to that, I put some 19th and 21st century and Art Deco to say that there is not only 18th century in France. The 2 scones are from Albert Cheret. They are scones from Art Deco, using stone and bronze. The 2 19th century chandeliers using silver, plated, and crystal. And at the end, at the middle, my last, one of my last design, the jellyfish, using bronze and rock crystal. That is important for me to speak about the rock crystal because nobody knows that, very few people know that, but at the beginning, the chandelier were in rock crystal. When you on inventory, we speak about crystal chandelier, it's all the time natural crystal. And those chandeliers are in fact reproduction of the original chandelier made in plain silver and rock crystal in Versailles. During the time of Louis XIV, all the furniture were in plain silver. It was totally crazy. Also to have almost 400 mirrors in the mirror hall was totally crazy. And it was the most luxury place in the world. It's why I say the center of the world. And those chandeliers were remade in 20th century in bronze and artificial crystal. And here you can see the same work with the rock crystal and the bronze. And for me, it's very important to create modern design using the original know-how for two things. First is because it's what I like, and it's easy for me to create with what I have around me on my workshop. But also, we need to continue know-how. And if tomorrow there is no more fashion for the French classical things, because of our products, we will continue this know-how, and we will have the transmission of the know-how on modern design. And I think we all have this interrogation. We have a fantastic know-how come from the past, but how use it today, and how we have the mission of keeping that and of transmission for the next generation in terms of know-how, in terms of sort of test for our customer. I don't know if I'm clear, but I hope you understood.
No, you're very clear, because so the title of the talk that we're doing is, I don't know if I mentioned, is Living Heritage, Reinventing a Legacy. So it's very much about craftsmanship, but about the innovation and craftsmanship now and how it's used now. And I wonder, a good person to answer that question would be Aparna, because how do you use craftsmanship in your style? You know, interior decoration is something which goes through phases, where minimalism, and then there's maximalism, and there's a return, and then there's a balance, and then there's always kind of a Belgian style, which is sort of there. In your work, I know is very sort of neoclassical and contemporary. How do you use these crafts and the work of these three magnificent companies in your projects?
Well, it's really a pleasure to share the stage with all these three people, and I'm working with all of them. So it's really, I know their work and their craft and their art. It's really a pleasure, firstly. And like you said, the country, the stage that we are, as India, is going through a great transformation, I feel, at the moment, where you get obviously the odd requests from clients where they push you to copy the Palace of Versailles or things like that, and as an architect you're trying to make the projects more relevant and more contextual rather than just copying. I think we're at a great time where people have now started to understand what they like between what they have, the context of climate and other things. At the same time, I feel that, because I do mostly homes, architecture and interiors, and we build them from ground up, foundation onwards to the last bit of hanging of curtains. That's a very large spread to handle. That's not enormous. That's an enormous spread to handle, from structure, electrical, plumbing. That's where you sort of tend to lose art in your projects. By the end of it, you're so tired. 2-3 years of continuously working on a project, where I feel collaborations become very important. Collaborations with artists, with factories and workshops which have been family owned for hundreds of years, bringing something really important and their craft into your project. I think this is how we sort of look at working and bringing these beautiful arts and objects and building them as a part of our projects. I think that's where the real amalgamation of all these things lie to bring about a good project forward.
I mean, I think that's very interesting, because 9 years ago when I arrived in India, I was the editor of Architectural Digest. I was sort of struck by how many people, Salone was the most important thing, and going to Salone and buying a big B&B Italia sort of sofa, which looks like a Minotti sofa, was considered the greatest luxury. And in that 9 years that I've lived in India, there's been this sort of massive sort of evolution of thinking and sophistication, and where sort of people are now discovering companies like yours, but also homegrown companies as well, and artisans, and that's something that's I think the most sophisticated clients in India are probably looking for right now.
Yes, absolutely, because there is a catalog product which is mass produced, and there are these family-owned workshops that are absolutely doing bespoke work, have enormous amount of archives, to bring about the past, present, and the future into the work that they do. I think that's very interesting.
So I know Jean-François and Régis really well, and I know that they have a big presence in India, and Jean-François has lived here for a long time, but your presence and your interest in India, it's not just about business opportunity, and in fact it's very much about the transmission of craftsmanship between two cultures, and about sort of, it's about preserving craft, particularly the work that you've been doing in India. And so I wonder if you could just tell me about that, about your relationship with India and preserving craft and India-France relations.
I came the first time in India almost 30 years ago, 28, something like that. At this time it was to source stones, because I heard about the Maharaja jewelries and all the stones. And as I told you, the men of the pendant on the chandelier are made in stones. And I discovered this country. I met Jean-François this time. We were younger, much younger. And I discovered this country, and it inspired a lot. At this time, it was like today you go on the moon, It was very strange. All my friends say you are crazy to go in India, and today it's going in an international city only. But 30 years ago, it was really something different. And I met a lot of people. I met a new culture, and I think it inspired me a lot. And I think it's why now Indian people love my products, because maybe it's a little bit inspired by India. All the stone I use, all the color of stone I used, all my products are a little bit unique because the stones are unique, and I work around the stones. And that helped me a lot, I think, to be in connection with people here. Also, what I appreciate a lot with Aparna, especially with Aparna, she brings all our customers in France, in our company. We spend night together, at the beginning visiting the company, after have a dinner in the company, after dancing in the company.
It's like a jewelry store for chandeliers.
and that also make everybody understand that buying a chandelier is much more than buying something that you put in your house. It will be the center of your house. It will give you an ambience with the light, but not the light of your house. It's like a jewelry. It will give a lot of information about you when people will come in your house. And it's important, I think, that interior designer and customer understand what they like, because we have a huge choice, and it's difficult to choose something. It's why we need the advice of the interior designer, that it's very well, but also the customer, if he's come in our company, spend 2 hours working in our company, understand how it's made, but also see the museum of the chandeliers that we have in our company with 1,000 different chandeliers. After that, they understand what they like, and they can choose something that speak about them, their taste. And the chandelier is very important. I think it's much more important than my friend products, of course, because you see that first. When you go inside the room, you see the chandelier. And you have to choose something that you like, not as absolutely to match with architecture. It has to match with your taste. And it's why I appreciate when I have the interior designer who know what will match with the architecture, plus the customer will know what would, on that choice, which one will match with his own taste. And after that, I'm very happy, because I know that my chandelier will give pleasure every day to the owner of the house.
So I've not been myself, but I think a lot of interior decorators from India have been to your atelier in the south of France, and it is just has a stellar reputation. But Féau also has an incredible showroom in Paris, I think, which is, it's your showroom and is it a workshop as
No,
well?
it used to be a workshop, but now we have so many people we cannot keep them in Paris. We already have 20,000 square foot in the center of Paris, which is really amazing, and we are there since 150 years. And as I say, it's like a candy shop for designer. It's like a maze full of fragments of the great decor made for the king, for the queen, for the big client of the 300 last year. It goes from the Art Deco to Louis XIV, and they love to browse there with their client and to pick some idea. And why I say it's a candy shop, it's very cool for them, because when sometimes it's hard, you don't know what your client likes. And it's hard for you to define where they really want to go. And by going around my showroom, they can give you some advice and they can give you some direction of what they like. And after together, we can create and we can make some team building and build a great decor. And that's what we love to do. And that's why it's very important to have this big collection of full of fragments. And the collection is very important. It's like for you and for you too.
And I think when we think of the idea of innovation and sort of retail innovation or experience innovation, the idea of that clients are invited to, before they buy a Chanteler, they're invited to the south of France, or to you also have incredible workshops in Paris itself, on Place de la Concorde, the original workshops, correct? Yes, of the kings. And Lesage, you're at le 19e, the Chanel. You have
le 19M.
Yes, can you tell us, because that's a very innovative and experience.
With our partners Chanel, the collaboration started long ago between my grandparents and Mademoiselle Chanel herself, and then the love story continued through my father, who realized averagely 35 years ago, that our professions, and especially the craft people, without whom nothing would exist, because we are very nice on stage, but if they are not there, we are nobody. So there was a necessity of thinking of the future and installing, at the turn between the 20th and the 21st century, artisans, being French or Indian or anywhere in the world, strongly rooted and keeping confidence in the future. And the 19M is a sort of invention between Chanel, my father, and other craft houses, high-level craft houses, to give us very solid platform which will try to remove the maximum possible stress around the artisans so that they can concentrate only on what is important, their golden fingers, and the incredible talent they are able to use to translate either our ideas to serve clients like Aparna, and for herself, her final clients, or Jean-Louis or others, and to be able to propose, we are lucky at Lesage to have the largest collection of embroidery in the world, with 75,000 samples in Paris and more than 10,000 samples in India. And this dialogue between the craft houses, a strong platform like Chanel, which has hosted at the 19M, which is quite a fantastic, extremely innovative building, celebrating all the aspects of people who can bring ornament to any form of textile, from the embroideries to the feather work, to the lace, the tweed weaving, all the professions which are complementary and can work together to beautify textile. My personal addition to the story has been to extend the love for textile also to the interiors, and how to use embroidery, not like my family was doing mostly on garments since the mid-19th century till today, and it continues, but also to bring the opportunity, which was disappearing at that time, for interior designers and architects to continue to use the craft or art of embroidery into either historical, classical, or contemporary interiors. And more than saving a style or saving memories, it's to continue to exercise at the highest possible level all the stitches, which are more than 10,000 different ones, which could have been forgotten and which used today can continue to serve a modern and contemporary approach of design, even if the techniques are 16th century, 14th century, 13th century, and even older, thanks to this approach, which is supported by the 19M and Vastrakala in South India, we are able to react quickly, precisely, with extraordinary craft people who, when we met them 30 years ago in India, had lost confidence and thought that they were belonging to the past. Thanks to the work we have done in India with my partners, thanks to the work which has been done in Paris between the craft houses and the 19M, today we have more and more youngsters. The average age of the artisans, which was 65, 70 when I was 15, is now more 25, 30, and they are absolutely, thank you, and they are absolutely confident that what they have in their hands and the knowledge they have accumulated is a treasure. They know that it is treasured. I think what is changed also a lot is that in the past, first of all, we were not saying artisans. My grandparents would call them workers. So what has changed even in the way they are described, even if the way they are addressed, is also that they know, and it's important for them to know, how crucial their knowledge is to continue not only to see the design evolve in the future, but to keep it at the same level of quality. And not to be just a look, but to continue to be a treasure and something which people will admire in a timeless manner in 200, 300, 500, or God knows how many years. So for all those reasons, and that's why it's great that we are all together today, is to celebrate, and as I was saying before, we are chameleons. We three are chameleons. Sometimes we put a foot into design, but we call ourselves artisans. We don't call ourselves designers. And we are at the service of the designers. And our role is really to, like chef in an extraordinary cuisine, present all the possibilities, let them choose, and be able to always answer in a modern manner, which means fast, but respecting the extremely high level of quality which people come and to get at our different houses. And we are very happy to serve our clients, and more in India, where in fact you are right, the appetite for beauty and bespoke and personalized craft, which was not the case 10 years ago, where brands were important. Today, the marketing of the brand is still very active and successful in India. But what people are slowly rediscovering is how special our craft houses can make their house by giving special programs, bespoke creations, and only made for them and exclusively for them. And you know how in India it's very important to have what the neighbors and the cousins don't have. So for all these reasons, I think there are beautiful days in front of us, and the artisans will continue to mark more and more their presence, and in India especially.
I think it's very interesting where you said that you have, obviously, Lesage has such an archive, but I know that all three of you are, all three of you have incredible archives, like best archives in the world. But you're also making new archives. Like you're not relying on the archives essentially. So, and you're making the new creations that you're making are of such a quality that Mobilier National will acquire them, and they are the sort of the heirlooms of the future, in fact. Are you very conscious of that as you design and commission and make new things?
But in my case, but I think it's for them also, we were born into it. And when I was a kid, I was very unconsciously playing with Schiaparelli treasures and dressing my cousins into D'Artagnan or Red Indians with things which today are into museums. So I think it's at the same time hyper-conscious. We are hyper-conscious of it because we know it's there. And as Jean-Louis was saying, it's stored somewhere. And you press the button, it opens. And you say, oh yes, there was that sample which has that particular material and all that. But at the same time, it's little unconscious, and it's just flavors which we know are there, which we use. When we need them, for sure we use them, but which helps mostly to create new ways, in my case, to embroider, and in their case, to lit and ennobled walls. But I think we are semi-conscious of it. We know exactly what we have, and we are trying to continue to keep them alive by bringing new creations all the time in addition to the existing archives.
I think you should tell them about the latest project we did and how you keep on creating more and more new embroideries. The fantastic panel that we shot in your factory, Vastrakala in Chennai, with these beautiful animals and how we captured the emotions and the expressions. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, India and weddings.
That is going for a drawing room, not a wedding.
Aparna came to us with a desire to create for one of her clients a giant panel which is 7 meters by 4 meters and which is featuring all kind of wild animals, and all that had to be completed in less than 3 months. It has consumed 15,000 hours of work. It has kept more than 50 artisans at work 8 hours a day, because we respect the rules, but continuously. And the brief from the client was very unclear. And so I had to persuade the client of what he would love, and by trying to demonstrate that you can't have everything, otherwise it will become something which has absolutely no roots, no meaning, etc., etc. I even used some culinary examples to say you can't have some palak paneer and at the same time a truffle risotto mixed together, it will be ugly. So you better trust me, you do what I propose to you.
I witnessed the conversation.
And finally we have managed by imitating the engraving technique of the taille douce, where people use parallel lines to more or less deep to create an impression of 3D, and we chose that particular technique. We chose one thickness of line would be one color and one material. We had 21 of them, so that, and I was saying telling before the importance of removing the stress around the artisans. Artisans always had a stressful life. First, they were not very well paid. Second, you are never sure of what you will get as an order 3 months from now, etc., etc. So we, as head of companies, I think one of our work is to remove the stress, to let the artisans work peacefully. Otherwise, for sure, they will change. Even if they love what they do, they will go for something safer. So in this particular case, it was to play with engraving techniques translated into embroidery, and to make sure that each artisan on that giant piece of work with 21 colors of gold, 6 colors of silvers, etc., would not get lost, so that the managers won't panic and there would not be any revolution, and at the end the client will be happy. And it worked. So, but it's true that our role is also to help the designers and their clients, whenever we can talk to them, to take a decision, go into direction, and avoid that they get lost into the immense possibilities that our profession can propose and focus on one direct, and sometimes we have to be a little authoritarian to make sure that something happens, because otherwise we can talk and talk and talk forever, nothing happens, the crucial day arrives, the things are not ready, it's a panic, etc. So we are discreet from the backstage, we are discreet helpers of the talents of the ones who are meant to create, and create a bridge between what they want, which most of the time is impossible, too short, I mean, very complicated, and make sure it exists by being the bridge between the front stage and the backstage, where our often anonymous and shy and humble artisans are just waiting for indications to know how to create those marvels. So all that we do together, and it's quite interesting, and it's partly also based on the archives, because we have to remember these techniques, that time, this box, to make sure all that exists.
Yes, but it's interesting in going back to the archives, because I think in fashion and design, newness is just, I mean, it's terrible, but it's what everybody is obsessed by, and there's nothing new in color, there's nothing new in form. We're a generation which is generations beyond that. So the newness maybe comes in material or technique, and I think Bernard Arnault has talked about that recently, that he wants more complicated sort of techniques. He's looking for the most refined or rare materials. Is that something that in your businesses you've also found?
I think for me it's easier, because every century we change the way that lights. And it was not the same chandelier for candles, that's the chandelier for gas. Everybody redesigned everything. After that, electricity arrived and everybody redesigned, because for the first time of the history, the light not has to go up, but can go down. It's why we have the Sécessions, Art Nouveau, and all this branch, all this style. And today is LED. The light are cold, we can close, and we don't have to use bulb everywhere, and we can do very new things. And I think it's because of that we can create new things. Also on chandelier, I think people during the history were very quiet, and we have many, many new materials that we can use that were never used, many new form, and for me, I don't want to speak for my friends, but for me, I think there is many, many new inspiration, materials, way of light that we can...
I'm actually Régis, you are the definition of the answer to that question, in fact, because candlelight is what chandeliers rely on, but you've put great thought and development and R&D into creating non-candles that look like candlelight, and they're really known in the business as being the best.
Yeah, for the candles, but that because I want the chandelier at the right lights, and I was very disappointed that during the 20th century, on the candlelight chandelier, the chandelier was awful because they used bad bulbs and they put the bulb at the same place as the candles. Me, when I use the bad bulbs for a chandelier, I put the bulbs inside, not at the place of the candles. If you want a very strong light on that kind of chandelier, I will put bad bulbs or strong lights inside. You will not see it. But I will keep the space of the candle for candles, real candles or my bulbs that look like candles. But you see on 1930s, then you have the sconces on the wall. They put the bulbs behind the stone. And on my chandelier, I try to put the lights inside to create shadow on the wall, to create a light for the table under it. And but now we are free with the LED to do what we want in terms of color, in terms of size, and in terms of heater. Yeah, I don't know if it's a good word, but before the bulb was very hot, and you cannot put the bulb too close from the silk or from the wall. Now the bulbs are cold, and you can do what you want. We can have a lot of creativity coming with this new way of light, new material also. There is a lot of materials that play very well with the lights, and we can work with new stones or new things like that I think nobody thinks to use in chandelier, I don't know why. Maybe because of the LED, change the color of the light, that can light differently the different stones and open us a new way of thinking about new chandelier and new collection. And for me, I think I can design new collection for centuries.
And Guillaume, you mentioned that you had recently done panels for the Élysée Palace, for Macron's version of the Élysée Palace.
The designer who worked on the black panel on the right have designed the desk of Macron in the Élysée Palace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, yes, but I agree with you. The light is very important. You can make the best decor in the world. If the light is not well think, it's a disaster. I think light is it's very important. It's capitals.
Embroidery is often a way of reflecting the light on a fabric also. So in our 3 cases, the light is crucial.
And Aparna, for you, newness, you push Jean-François with your 3-month deadlines and your...
You see, there's a thing in India, and we joke about it in our office. So when a client walks in, the first statement the client tells you is, anybody who comes to my house, or it should be just wow, that nobody has ever seen. And this is something that I struggle with all the time, that why do you want something that nobody has ever seen? It could be beautiful, extraordinary, very aesthetically pleasing, but why mention that nobody has ever seen? But yes, we struggle with this on a day-to-day basis, and that's why I bring these challenges to Jean-François, to Régis, where, if we are building a house, let's say 3 houses in the similar, same city, we can't use the same chandelier in the foyer. So we come to Régis all the time to, create more innovations, give us more iterations of the products that he has. But yes, I think what helps all of them is the amazing archives they have. I think that is what I've learned is the source of inspiration also for all you guys. And then to add more value to that, which is more in the contemporary context, based on what the client's feedback, based on where it's going to be placed, or the interiors. I think that's what gives you your new product, a combination of all these.
And so my final question, so we were able to see a lot of Jean-Louis' projects, which was very exciting to see the Hyderabad house, but we haven't seen your projects. And I know they're very opulent, and they're considered some of the most important residences right now in India. What can you tell us, without breaking NDAs, where are they?
Some of them are on displays at the back.
Really?
Yeah,
They are. Oh, sorry.
Maybe after this.
Okay, you can tell us after this.
Yes.
The gossip.
No, I mean, big or small, a home is a home. And pretty much it's the same requirement when it boils down to making a home, a bedroom has to feel like a bedroom, a living room has to feel like a living room. And at the end of the day, while yes, we have this insatiable need now in India to, like Jean-François said, that I have a bigger house than yours and you have a bigger house than him. So we deal with this on a day-to-day basis, which is also pretty much keeps us on our toes, and these are our projects, which is, I think you can see them now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, what a bathroom.
So I think it's always the allure of the unknown. While Jean-François, we had him in our studio the other day to have a small discussion with my team on designs, on what we were currently building. And it's always interesting to know his point of view, which is very international, versus what we are doing in India. And, the combination of two, I think, is what I think would be my future.
Well, I can't thank you enough for sharing the platform with me today, the 4 most elegant people I know, and doing absolutely incredible work. If there's anybody in the audience, I mean, it's such a rare experience to have people like this on the stage. If anybody has a question, please do share. Don't be shy. Although maybe we covered everything. Oh, well, then maybe we should break for tea. But so thank you so much, everybody.
very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.